Welcome to Star Wars Ahsoka Episode 6 review. And I didn't review the 5th episode, so let me review it in about 30 seconds. So the 5th episode, while it was nice, it wasn't necessary. And I love seeing Anakin again, and I love seeing Ahsoka and Anakin basically talk about their problems and what they don't understand about each other, and Ahsoka getting this sort of lesson. I'm not exactly sure what Ahsoka actually learned from this experience. And while it was really cool to see Anakin again, trust me, I was very excited to see Anakin, and they did a lot of cool stuff with him. I still don't really feel like it was necessary to have that scene in the whole episode basically about Anakin and Ahsoka just talking and going through the Clone Wars and stuff like that. It didn't exactly seem necessary, and I would have rathered we got that episode removed and just an extra episode out of the show where maybe we could go into depth more about the villains or about Ahsoka. I just wouldn't really like to spend all that time on something that doesn't really exactly seem important for the plot of this show. Anyways, let's jump right into episode 6. So episode 6 starts with Ahsoka and Huyang in hyperspace, and I really like how they did this hyperspace. It was colorful, and I think Dave did that to show that it's different than normal hyperspace. It's not the same just blue swirl, but because we're traveling across galaxies, the hyperspace colors are different, just to show that it's something different, something new. And I think that's why Dave did it. And Ahsoka basically tells Huyang that Sabine went selfishly. So I don't know how Ahsoka knew that Sabine went willingly, but I guess she knew because Sabine didn't shoot the map. So she discusses that, and Huyang kind of sympathizes with Sabine a little bit. This gets really interesting at the very end of the episode. But that's the only time we actually see our protagonists in this episode. After that, except for Sabine, of course, but after that, we don't see Ahsoka anymore, and I thought that was interesting, because this whole 5 episodes have been about the protagonists and Baylan and Shin, and we hadn't seen Thrawn. I liked how Dave basically spent this entire episode focusing a little bit on Thrawn and about Sabine, more of the villains, and I really liked that. So then we jump to Sabine being handcuffed, and clearly Baylan didn't keep his word. He sort of did, and he keeps saying that he kept his word, but he really didn't, because he said willingly, and then he puts her in handcuffs and puts her basically in like a jail cell. So then they go down to this planet in this new Beyond area, and we got to see witches. I thought was really cool is how they did the echo thing. In the Clone Wars, when the witches talked, there was like this echo that they had. It was just some mysterious, I think it was to add to the suspense and the mystery of those characters. And they did the same thing here. I don't think these witches are actually important. I don't think we've ever seen them before. But it's interesting to know that this is where all the witches come from. So how did the witches get from this galaxy to the current known galaxy in Star Wars? I have no idea, but it's very interesting that we actually get to see the origin of the witches. I wonder if Mother Talzin came from the New Beyond. So basically, Sabine ends up in this prison area, another prison for her, and that's when Baylan and Shin talk, and Baylan kind of has this weird moment where he's not actually here for Thrawn. He's not here to bring like peace to the galaxy like the villains usually say. He wants to see how the Sith started, and he wants to like study their mistakes so that that doesn't happen again. I think it's interesting, and he thinks that something out there in the galaxy is actually calling to him. Don't exactly know what that means, and I don't know why that's in the New Beyond, because the New Beyond kind of just seems like a empty void, like a wasteland. So I'm not exactly sure why that's happening, but I'm definitely sure that will be explored in the next couple episodes. So Sabine tries to use the Force to open the door. That doesn't work. As Sabine was trying to escape, Thrawn appears and has one of the coolest entrances ever. We saw these dirty stormtroopers, and I think this is just to show that it's been 20 years since they've been in the known galaxy. They can't really clean their armor, and they can't get new armor. And then we see this guy with a golden face, and there's actually rumors about him, and I don't know much about him. I don't think anyone knows much about him, but it was always known that Thrawn would have some personal bodyguard that was gold, and we got to see him in this episode. Thrawn makes a great appearance as he meets with the witches, and he meets with Morgan Elsbeth, and he's just got that perfect voice. I love how they used that voice actor for the Rebel show in this, because his voice is so amazing. The thing about his voice is it's not like evil and dark like Darth Vader, and it's not like Darth Maul where you just sense the anger in the voice. It's a more calm and relaxed way of speaking, which makes it even more interesting because we know how evil of a person he is, and he speaks in this very slow but intelligent way. And I really like that, and I really like how that transferred here. Some people complained about how he looks old and he doesn't look right. I feel like Thrawn's the only character who looks like he aged normally in the Star Wars galaxy. For some reason, specifically Bo-Katan, she just didn't age. It was like 30 years since we saw in the Clone Wars and she looked the same. And for some reason, Disney just seems to not age their characters, so they look the same as the last time we saw him. But not for Thrawn. Thrawn looks like he's actually aged like a normal person. Maybe that's because he was a Chiss, and Chiss age differently. I have no idea, but I just like how Thrawn looks different and not the same as we saw him before. He then has a meeting with Sabine, and I thought it was really cool, especially once you watch Rebels. If you haven't watched Rebels, it's not as cool. But Thrawn does his usual thing, as he always has a plan, and he always got something to subvert our expectations, as he basically just tells Sabine, okay, goodbye. Do what you want. Be free. He does warn her that when his ship departs, she'll be stranded, which was a very nice comment from him. I don't know why he told her that, and I don't know why he set her free. Of course, he explains he wants her to find Ezra, and then he'll kill them both. But it's very interesting when watching it in the moment, like, why is Thrawn doing this? Thrawn always has some plan. He's always thinking 2 steps ahead, and I really like that. We don't see a lot of action in this episode, but I actually really like that. While I don't like slow burn shows like Andor, this was a slow episode, but we actually got some world building. We see this little turtle animals, and we just see this wolf, and we see a bunch of animals, and we just get to enjoy this new galaxy without all the action. We do know that other people besides Thrawn are actually in this galaxy, as she encounters some mercenaries or some scavengers, most likely, and she fights very well. And she kind of has this funny thing with the wolf as the wolf run away. I like all these little tiny details. I like this slower episode. It's either my favorite or my second favorite. So she keeps traveling and she's asking to find Ezra. She's in desperate need of finding Ezra and she can't find any answers. She's in this wasteland of a planet and she doesn't know where to go. She doesn't know where to look. But Sabine's a Jedi, and Jedi always seem to have this weird but very beneficial relationship with aliens and animals, as those are usual companions and actually help the Jedi achieve their goal. And we actually see this as Sabine has to calm her wolf down so she can talk to these turtle people, and she wants to find out where Ezra is. And this turtle had a little rebel badge, and I don't know if Ezra gave that badge. I doubt that these turtles had any significance in the galaxy, or if they were even in the galaxy. I doubt it, but I thought it was really cool. Then Shin and Baylan are following them. I don't know why Thrawn just sent Shin and Baylan, and Morgan Elsbeth actually points that out. And I think that's just because they can't send a whole army, then clearly Sabine and Ezra would be dead. And you're always going to have a little bit of plot armor, as you know from my episode 3 review. I really hate plot armor, but it sort of makes sense, and I'm sure Thrawn trusts Baylan. But with that being said, he did kind of question Baylan, saying that you are a Jedi, and you were a Jedi, and I think that bothered Baylan, and I think Baylan respects Thrawn a little more, as he knows that Thrawn knows a lot, and Thrawn's very intelligent. Then Sabine finds this village, and this really reminded me of a Clone Wars episode that probably every single person watching this video forgot about, but I still remember it. I love it. It's where the Separatists are trying to test out this new device where it blows up all living things but doesn't kill any robots. And they go to this small planet, and Anakin and Ahsoka are there. Anakin's there because he's hurt, and he needs to be healed. And they find these small villagers who live in these small houses that talk about peace. And while I don't know what these turtle people think about the galaxy and think about war, it's just really interesting, this tiny little village with these tiny little people. It really reminded me of that Clone Wars episode. I'll put it on screen right now so you can all see it. And then we see Ezra. So this kind of got rid of all the rumors where Ezra's evil, Ezra's going to be this, Ezra's going to be Thrawn's bodyguard, and they just dismiss that and say that Ezra is the same guy that we last saw him. And I kind of like that because his character arc was almost finished in the 4th season of Rebels, as he finally decided that there is no conflict within him and he will be a Jedi. So they have a very wholesome moment, and there's one thing I want to talk about. Ezra doesn't know what Sabine did to get here, and he asks her, and she basically says, I'll tell you later. But I'm very, very interested to see how Ezra reacts to finding out that Sabine may have risked the fate of the galaxy just to see Ezra again, and I'm sure he will hate that, and I want to see what that's like on screen and see how Ezra reacts, how Sabine reacts, and see what they do with this information. Will Ezra stick by Sabine? What will happen? Will Ahsoka get involved in this situation? What happens when Ahsoka appears? What is Ahsoka gonna say to Ezra? These are so many important conversations, and I think it's all gonna look terrible for Sabine, and everything's gonna go bad for Sabine. But I'm really interested and I'm really invested in that. Now, I do have one big issue with this episode. I really didn't have any issues besides this one with this episode. I think this episode was near perfection. The only issue I had is that Ezra was living with these people for so long and never got caught. Now, they do say one thing, that they always move around so that they can never get caught, and they always move their village, and that kind of makes sense, but it's kind of just a poor excuse. Because let's be real, if Thrawn really wanted to find Ezra, he would send scouts everywhere and they'd actually find him. So the fact that for 20 years he's just been running around with these turtle people and never been found is a little odd. Unless he was actually doing something else, but I kind of doubt it. I'm really excited to see the next episode of the show, and most importantly, I'm excited to see how Ezra reacts to Sabine. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Please hit that subscribe button on your way out. Thank you, and may the Force be with you.